Hello, welcome to Wednesday night's Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Cott. I am delighted to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how are you?
How are we, Daniel?
I'm very good. How are you?
Oh, rushed off my feet, man. It's been a busy day, busy day. Also, by the way, before we even start, producer Darryl has a special request. His dad, William Devine, turns 65 today. So happy, oh, sorry, 55, I'm being told. So happy birthday. I don't think that's true either, by the way, but there you go. Anyway, that's the shout out's over. Get on with the business. There's loads to get on with.
As you say, it's a packed show. Later on in the show, we will have we'll catch up with the guys who were at the Rangers presser earlier today. We've also got a clip from the Record Celtic podcast with the guys who are out in Bologna. And we'll also hear from Rangers boss Danny Rowe. But I wanted to start you off with this, Keith. Let me read a quote to you. This is in regards to Martin O'Neill after the Auchinleck Talbot game. What I saw underneath was a man who was saying, as politely as he possibly could during his interviews on TV and radio, "I'm effing raging and I'm not having this." That's the words of Ryan Stevenson. I understand you can maybe elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, I got a sneak preview at Ryan's column, which will be running tomorrow's paper. I think it'll be online later on tonight. And to say it's of the explosive variety is probably doing it an understatement. You know, Ryan Stevenson was the guy that copped a lot of flack for suggesting, after being at Celtic Park for Wilfried Nancy's first game in charge of Celtic, that he was going to present a real problem for Celtic, and that they had made a bad move by appointing him, and that it was going to end in tears. As I said, people were jumping on as a bit of a pile on Steve-O after that. It was proven to be absolutely correct, and in double quick time. And he's got a very interesting take. Obviously, he's coming at it from a Hearts perspective. Hearts play Celtic in a massive, top of the table clash at Tynecastle on Sunday. And he's written this really fascinating take on what he's seen and how he thinks things will play out from here. And he's made a really interesting observation on how he feels Martin O'Neill is thinking right now, given that it was obvious and that weeks ago, months ago, people in the Celtic boardroom should have been putting a big red circle round the diary January 25, saying we need to help the manager for this game. Now, we know that Celtic are in advanced stages now of I think they'll be hoping to sign up, finally get a striker in the door, and Thomas, how do we pronounce it? Svanskara?
Kavankara, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
That was Michael Gannon.
So, you never know. Okay. So that one looks as if it should be done imminently. Don't see any roadblocks being encountered with that deal. But I tell you what the problem is. The problem is that Martin O'Neill probably won't meet him until Friday when he brings his squad back to Lennoxtown after the trip to Bologna. On Friday, it will be a warm-down session. Probably gives him one training session with his new striker and whoever else Celtic might provide between now and then. It doesn't give the manager any time to make proper assessments and to properly plan his strategy for a game which has potentially massive consequences. Ryan Stevenson believes that Hearts will win it, and he believes that if they do win it, or when they do win it, he reckons that's Celtic gone in terms of this season's title race. In fact, I tell you what, Dan, I caught up with Ryan Stevenson a bit earlier, having had a sort of sneak preview at the column, just for a chat with him about what his thoughts were. Do you want to see it?
Right, let's have a listen.
I am lucky enough to get a wee sneaky preview of your column for tomorrow. It's a sensational read, I have to tell you, not for the first time. Can we start with the first point I think you're raising it, Ryan, which is you kind of think that you saw a shift in Martin O'Neill's demeanour, or you've noticed a shift over the last few days?
Yeah, I just felt on his interview after the game, I know he was downbeat, obviously. I thought he would have expected more for his players. Again, you have to give credit to Auchinleck Talbot, the fact that they sat and they never obviously created much, but at the same time, if we're being 100% honest with each other, it was Auchinleck Talbot against Celtic. It should have been shooty in, and I think in the nicest possible way, his interview was basically telling you that he was absolutely fuming. He wasn't happy with the performance. I don't think he was happy with the players. I know there was a lot of changes, but he wasn't happy with the players that stepped in. And I think he just looked disheartened. Now, a lot of that,
a sort of Morse code message to the board and kind of stopping short of how Brendan Rodgers said it, but much the same meaning.
Well, I think so. I think in a way, when obviously he was asked on the fact that was our signings coming in, he said he was hopeful. And he kind of just left it at that. I'm hopeful something will be happening. Now, I think if they're all singing off the same hymn sheet, he would come out and say, yes, we're going to have a signing coming in. This is what we're doing. We're confident. And he just kind of said, yeah, I'm hopeful. And I just felt he looked down. He looked disheartened. I know that, as I said, the performance wasn't great. They had managed to get through, and ultimately is the main thing. But for the first time, I think the feel-good factor in that bounce in that 8-game period, it was kind of like a mini show.
Yeah.
Of I'm in here for 8 games.
It was a lap of honour for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's such a great buzz because he knew that it was coming to an end. And now I think that he's came in from when he's came back to the end of the season, and especially in this window, I think we're starting to sort of see the real side of it. And I also think, obviously, with the fact that Rangers have done business very quickly as well, will add to that sort of pressure that he's probably feeling. But it was the first time I think that I've seen him as downbeat as what he's been, especially getting into such a big week. I think with the Auchinleck game, it's a hiding to nothing. He has to win that. If they won 10-0, people would expect them to win 10-0. They then obviously go to Bologna tomorrow, which is a massive game, and then obviously they've got the big game against Hearts on Sunday. So it's a massive week, a monumental week in their season. And as I said, they got through the Auchinleck game, brilliant. But I still think he would have wanted. I'm not even going to say one signing. I would have said 2 or 3 signings in by now, and it obviously hasn't happened, and that ultimately falls at the board's door.
Yeah, I mean that is ultimately one of the points in the column that, you know, Hearts have had a hammer blow, 2 hammer blows with the injuries to Cammy Devlin and then Lorne Shankland. But Jamestown switches the button and they go and source like that, you know, ideal replacements for them. Rangers had a busy transfer window at the start, got in what they needed, and have now got 2 weeks to pick some extras. Celtic, a year down the line, are still waiting for Kyogo's replacement, and Martin O'Neill is the guy that's having to front all this up, carry it, and the guy that needs to take a team to Tynecastle. And I'm getting the feeling from what the column was saying, Ryan, is that you're feeling from Hearts having suffered a difficult moment against Falkirk at the weekend. Just watch the telly on the Sunday, watch Martin O'Neill's reaction, watch how flat Celtic are. You think that'll have got Hearts back up again for this weekend?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, if you're a Hearts player coming in to fill Cammy Devlin's boots or Benny Beningame, because he's obviously spended all Lawrence's boots, you'll have fire in your belly because you want to try and prove everybody wrong, because everybody assumes that the wheels are going to completely fall off now. Now they've made signings. They've obviously pushed signings through now to get boys and bodies in the building. As you said, Rangers have done business quietly but effectively, and then just Celtic. And I can feel the frustration for the fans, and I totally understand it, and I totally get it, and I totally think they're right. Is they're just in the dark as much as what I think Martin O'Neill is possibly with everything, and the board just seem to be just doing the exact same things. No information, no apology in the fact that they are in the situation they're in. So they just seem to be stumbling along. And do you know the only saving grace I've got is I've got Martin O'Neill there.
Yeah.
See if it was if Wilfried Nancy was still there, or it was another manager, they would be in a world of trouble. And I mean a world of trouble. But as is, they're still only 6 points behind getting into the game at the weekend, and they're through in the cup. So there is that positive side of it, but they're definitely stumbling through the dark here.
You seem fairly confident in the column, Ryan, that for a Hearts win this weekend. I think you said
I do, mate. I do. I think that I think regardless of who'll come in, I mean, I said to you, if I was coming in to replace Lawrence, the hunger and the fire inside me this full week, knowing that I was going to play in his place, would be to show everybody that I can play. It's not just about Lawrence is a massive player, Cammy Devlin's a massive player, and so is Benny. So it's three big players. But I'm also a footballer. I'm also a professional. I'm also playing for Hearts. If I was coming in, I'd be looking at it saying, well, I'm going to show the world, because all eyes will be on Tynecastle at the weekend. I'm going to show everybody that I'm the guy that can come in, fill the boots, and some.
Don't drop.
Yeah. So I still, as much as they're hurt, which they are, I still fancy them to go and get a result.
And you're also pretty strong, Ryan. And if Hearts do get that result, if they do get the 3 points, you think Celtic are, in your words, done in terms of this season's title?
I think they will be, mate. I genuinely, I mean, I covered the game on Sunday, and as I said, I know there was a lot of changes. I just felt they were so far off it, and I think if they then go 9 points behind, the psychological blow that will have, because they are fragile. No matter what way you look at it, I know Celtic fans will probably jump on me here that they can claw 9 points back, and I get that, but I just think they're so that team right now is so fragile. I think the other teams round about them will smell blood, and I think it'll be very difficult for them to claw it back.
And you're reaching a conclusion here, Ryan, that if Hearts can get this victory, stretch out 9 points in front of Celtic, you think the main worry from that point onward would be what's happening at Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Danny Roll's done a great job since he went in, and I think they've kind of went under the radar a little, strangely enough. I like the way, obviously, he's came in. Other than the Hearts' performance at Tynecastle, I think he's done well. I think the signings that he brought in are really, really good. Shows calmness. They're big signings. And I mean, they're only 6 points behind as well. So I think they're in a much better place mentally, so to speak, than what Celtic are. And I think that if Hearts manage to get the 3 points, I think Rangers will be sitting there saying, yeah, that's exactly what we want.
And in terms of, this game has been on the horizon, everybody's horizon for a while. It's not as if the fixture list just dropped yesterday. Are you surprised that even if there is time this week for Celtic to get some business done, you're probably looking at one training session for these new guys, Ryan? Is that enough time? Have the board let Martin O'Neill down here? Have they left him with his pants down going into this game?
The board's let the most of all this. The board's let the fans down. They've let Martin O'Neill down. The fact that you're hoping that some guy can just come in, have an hour and a half training session, and then just bounce into a game. Now that might happen. Sometimes it does. But I mean, middle of November time, we all knew this game was coming.
Yeah.
Start of December, we all knew this game was coming. Middle of December, we all knew that. Like for the last 6-7 weeks, we've known this game was coming this was going to come to a head. I have no idea why Celtic weren't preparing. I mean, even if Celtic, the way I look at it, if Celtic had to go out and pay £1 million extra for a player, they've got the money there to do the business and do that bit of business in the 1st or the 2nd of January to make a statement to say, we're back on it here. And then, which I said to you, send somebody out for the board to say, listen, to all the fans, we apologise, we've messed things up, which happens. We're trying to caveat this. We're going to bring players in nice and early for the remainder of the, to basically catapult us for the rest of this season. Big game coming up at the end of January. And they've done nothing. Absolutely nothing. They've sat silent. Fans are wondering. I think the way I look at it is they treat the fans as if they're stupid, which they're clearly not. So the full blame for me just lies at the door of the Celtic board.
Ryan Stevenson from the Green Brigade there.
No. Keith, Scotland the Brave says, Ryan predicting a Hearts win scares me. He also said Nancy was not the right man from the get-go and was proven correct. I hope not.
Yeah, says a lot of interesting stuff, and I agree with a lot of it as well. The position of the Celtic board is pretty indefensible at this point, and we've talked about that last night. The lack of foresight, the lack of urgency, the lack of action, the lack of ambition, the lack of spending, the lacking in every department. and Martin O'Neill has been thrown out there, as Ryan says, as the guy to try and hold everything together, to front everything up, to do all the media stuff, to try and put team on a pitch that can keep winning games, even though he's undermanned, even though he's working with a squad that's, it's night and day from the squad that Martin O'Neill assembled during his first time in charge. They're really not giving him the help that he requires. And now he's got this real crunch period, 3 or 4 days, big turnaround coming back from Italy to go to Tynecastle. And I wouldn't say with the same amount of certainty that I would know what the result looks like at Tynecastle on Sunday, but Ryan's very forthright in his opinion. He was very forthright about Wilfried Nancy, and as the comment there said, he called that right.
Keith, if Celtic do lose at Tynecastle, do you think they're out of the title race?
I think it's going to be really hard. What's that? 15 games to go, 9 points behind.
Yeah.
Would make it hard. It would certainly make Hearts red hot favourites going into the final stretch. As Ryan says, if Rangers can stay on their coattails, they give themselves an opportunity. But let's not forget, this is a Hearts side that's beaten Celtic twice already this season, beaten Rangers twice already this season. In the big games, you can make an argument, but can they handle it? Can they handle the big games? They can pick up points against the rest of the teams. But actually, if Hearts had picked up full points against the rest of the teams, they'd probably have this thing done and dusted by now.
Sewn up, eh?
So in the big games, there's no question, and their mentality, they've kind of come through those tests of character. I do think that it's a massive issue to lose Cammy Devlin and Lon Shankland, and it could come down to how good is Jamestown? We're about to discover, because if they can miss 2 players like that and not miss a beat because they're able to recruit players of a similar standard who can do a similar job for the team, I think that's borderline incredible stuff. So I kind of look at this game as a one-off, because there's so much on it. Tynecastle's going to be absolutely rocking. It means so much to Celtic as well. I just can't wait for the game.
Yeah.
But you wonder, a one-off game for Hearts right now, can they get up for it? Of course they will. Will they be hurting? Will they scar tissue after what happened against Falkirk, knocked out the cup and penalties? 100%. Will they be bursting to go? Yes. But over a prolonged period of 6 to 8 weeks, how did he do without Cammy Devlin and Lon Shankland? For me, as I've said repeatedly on this show, for me, Cammy Devlin has been, he's probably my leading candidate right now for the Player of the Year awards.
Mm-hmm. Aye.
So if they can pull a magic trick off and produce from a non-league club in Forest Green Rovers a player who can do a similar job for Derek McInnes as Cammy Devlin has been doing, well, then you've got to look at, there's some sort of weird science going on here.
Aye, absolutely. The game at the weekend, and I hate to, it sounds like I'm sitting in the fence. I think a draw, both teams would be happy to just get out of Tynecastle with a draw, with a point.
No damage done.
Aye, exactly. But I think Ryan said there, I think he said if Hearts beat Celtic, Rangers will be, delighted with that. Surely a draw. Rangers want them both dropping 2 points.
Yeah, well, I think if you're looking at it, if you're trying to win a league and there's a team that's pushing up at the top of the table that's won 14 out of the last 15, I think you would probably look at it and think, well, if they can fall over and struggle, then you take your chances. Where Rangers would say, take your chances going in against Hearts over the final furlongs. But I don't think Ryan's saying there, if I get it right, that 9 points is too much for Celtic to claw back in ordinary circumstances. I think what he's saying is these are extraordinary circumstances, and that Celtic have got themselves into a malaise, and if they were to fall 9 points behind at this point in what's been a really difficult season, I think he's questioning whether or not the hunger and the desire is there amongst this squad, maybe even the talent to push on and recover from that position. I'm not sure. And I will come back to it, Daniel. I've said consistently now, at least for a number of weeks since heading into January, there's 3 teams in this, and it could all come down, and very probably will come down to who can do the best business throughout, who comes out of the transfer window in a much stronger shape than they were going into it. And right now, Hearts have got a problem because they've lost 2 key players. Celtic have got a problem because they've really not done anything. And Rangers are in a good position because in my mind, they've signed 3 players who immediately improve their first 11. And I don't think they've stopped there. So there's so much kind of importance on what happens now with, 10 days left to the end of this window.
We can Monday.
That's where this could be won and lost.
We've got comments coming in, Keith. I know we've got a packed show, but let me throw a few of these at you because the Celtic fans seem to be pretty confident in the comment section. Tone says Celtic will destroy Hearts on Sunday. The turnaround starts tomorrow. Mark is banking on Calmac and KT pulling Celtic through. Chris says Hearts could beat Celtic on Sunday, then get beat the next 2. They'll always just be Hearts. Gordon says Hearts' luck will run out. Scott says Hearts will finish 3rd. And Davy Hoops says, I'm hearing a lot of what ifs where Hearts are concerned. What if Celtic win and the new striker scores a brace?
Well, then they're off to an absolute flyer.
Exactly.
And the Martin O'Neill magic dust has been sprinkled over the whole situation for the second time this season. But I do think, and this is where I think there has to be a bit of realism applied. Martin O'Neill came into this position in interim charge for a period where Celtic season was a busted flush, just about already. What he achieved in that 8-game spell was phenomenal. To take that same group of players and make them competitive and get them winning consistently and eat into Hearts' lead at the top of the table, knock Rangers out of the League Cup semi-final, set everything up on a plate for Wilfried Nancy. And, by the way, fired them back into the mix for qualification in the Europa League with that winning Feyenoord and a brilliant performance. Martin O'Neill's input over that period was absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But he went into it knowing it was a short period. He was holding the fort. And I do think the dynamic has changed. And I do think the pressure's changed. Because where he was able to come in and hear everybody singing his name and just enjoy this surreal kind of second shot at being Celtic manager. Now, after the disaster that was Wilfried Nancy, it's all on him. He's the guy that's got to front it up. He's the guy carrying the can. And he's the guy who'll be feeling the pressure. I think it was easier, I think. Although I'm not saying it was easy, it was easier for him to come in and stop the bleeding and set Celtic up, give him a platform for the second half of the season. Nancy dismantled the platform. And here he is at 73, back in the door, and he's having to build that same platform up again. Except time is of the essence now. And nobody appears to have told the Celtic board this.
It seems that way. We mentioned at the top of the show that we caught up with Andy Newport and Scott McDermott, who were at the Rangers press conference. I also caught up with Ryan McDonald and Michael Gannon, who are over in Italy. We're spoiling the fans tonight, Keith, everyone watching. We're spoiling them. Well, we're on Celtic. Should we maybe hear from the guys over in Bologna?
Yeah, go for it.
Bologna, really big game for Celtic. I saw Kieran Tierney today insisting that Europe is still a priority for Celtic. Bologna, I think I'm right in saying, they've only won one of their last 9 games in all competitions, but they are still 8th. Oh, so that's the Europa League table. They are still 8th. That's the Europa League table as well. I'm having a nightmare.
They're not far off that now.
They're still 8th in the Serie A. So
I know 8th is both, aren't they? Like they're about 8th in both.
They're that quality outfit is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Listen, they're not in great form. They're scoring goals, but they're shipping goals. So they're not in particularly fantastic form. They have been good in the European games, right enough. I mean, I think they won in Celtic Vigo in Spain, didn't they? And they won here pretty convincingly against was it Salzburg? They stuck 4 past them, so they've been decent. And they think if they another win, they probably can get top 8, maybe. They're not far off of getting
it's in their sights.
In their sights to get into the kind of straight to the knockout stage without the playoff round. So they've got a big incentive to kind of get 3 points against Celtic. I mean, it's a wee bit similar to the kind of Feyenoord game. The Feyenoord were on a bit of dodgy form and Celtic advantage, but I think Celtic need to produce that kind of performance again to get something out of this game. I think it's an opportunity for Celtic to get a result here. I said the Bologna are a bit leaky at the back. The only thing about Celtic is that Celtic have not been clinical. Apart from that Feyenoord game is the one that they really were. If they can get these shooting boots on, then yeah, I think there could be a chance of getting a result here. I think a point would be a pretty good return. But it's the question we've talked about at the start. Is it where is it in the list of priorities? I mean, if Celtic do get a point and then they go on to beat Utrecht, they're probably, well, that would be enough, I'd imagine, to get into the playoff run.
I think 4 points guarantees it, Mick. They could get through.
They might be enough, depending on results elsewhere, obviously. But then in Europe this year, I don't think Celtic are not going to win the Europa League this year. They're not equipped for it. So they get another round, probably go out that round. It's another 2 games at a time, and I don't know, maybe like Ryan's saying, this league running is so important. I'm loath to say that because I hate giving up in Scottish teams to saying that Europe's not a priority, because I think Europe should. I mean, this is about Celtic. I think this is a bugbear with Celtic for over a decade, that Europe wasn't a big enough priority. Yeah. I think it's annoyed a lot of fans, and I think the irony is that this kind of unrest that exploded this season kind of started going out of the Champions League. The kind of anger, the kind of going out with a whimper, having not tooled up for the Champions League. Whereas now, 4 or 5 months down the road, it's a case of like, well, Europe now is not that important, which is a kind of a sad indictment of where this season's kind of going. But it's a reality, isn't it? Yeah. That Europe has fallen down the pecking order because they're in such danger of like you say, like Ryan says, like finishing second or third in the league. I mean, to finish third, it's the Europa Conference, which is it's more money to play. It costs more money to play than you make.
Well, I mean, on that note, guys, massive game on Sunday at Tynecastle against Hearts. With that in mind, Mick, you mentioned on Hotline Live the other night that maybe Martin O'Neill.
I don't remember what I said Hotline Live the other night. I don't remember what I said 2 minutes ago. This could be anything.
Let me refresh your memory. You said after the Auckland game that maybe Martin O'Neill might be tempted to go with a lineup similar to the Auckland lineup. Is that something you think is a possibility?
No, I don't think so, because they were quite bad. They were pretty bad against Auckland, and I don't think he'll want to risk. And listen, I know you're talking about injuries and all that stuff, but I don't think he'll want to risk a bit of doing out here, just for terms of kind of morale as well, momentum, and pride. I mean, like Celtic in Europe, I think Martin O'Neill has got a kind of, he does want to represent Celtic in Europe and do well. So no, I don't think he will. I think he'll listen. Don't be wrong. If the game's going a bit haywire, make changes, but I think he'll be a strong lineup. I think he'll go. I think he has to really.
But this is the thing as well. I think he's got a duty to, regardless of how Celtic or where Celtic view Europe in terms of priorities. I think he's got a duty to put out the strongest team possible, because there's going to be around 2,000 fans, however many it is, making the journey over, paying thousands, hundreds and thousands of pounds to come over and watch the team, and they follow the team everywhere, in hope and expectation that Celtic will progress in Europe. So, Martin O'Neill's got a special European story at Celtic. We all know it. We don't need to go over it again. So I do think he'll be hugely motivated to get Celtic into the next round. I really do. You talk about 4 points. I think 4 points will more or less guarantee Celtic getting through. So I genuinely think Celtic are in a real chance of getting a result tomorrow night. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if they won using the spirit of Feyenoord. I think, reading a stat earlier today, the Celtic haven't actually won back-to-back European games since April 2003, when Martin O'Neill was last in charge.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's insane.
I think I've just got a feeling that tomorrow Celtic could produce that kind of result. And Mick mentioned a special word there, which is momentum. Celtic really need to start building momentum across all fronts, and go on a decent run of form and kick their season into gear. So yeah, I think tomorrow night could potentially be the catalyst of that. I do. I think it's a massive game, and I think he will put out the strongest team.
I don't think. I mean, Bologna are 8th in Serie A, and Serie A isn't its strongest right now either. Let's be honest. So I mean, you hear Serie A and you do get a bit kind of like, it's the Italian teams.
Nothing to fear.
They're not particularly. It's not particularly a particularly strong environment at this point in time. Just remember a couple of years ago, I remember Pascal Bruno.
Aye.
It was all these Scots working over there. At first, I thought I'd get an Italian kind of view of it all. And he was working as a pundit, so he'd seen a lot of the Scottish boys. And I said to him, what is it you think that is the reason why so many Scottish boys are doing so well in Italy? And I thought this would be a nice way into doing all the Scottish mentality, the players are skillful. What are you going to say? And he goes, it's because the Serie A, it is how you say it, shit right now. I was like, thanks, Pasquale, bye.
Just for that.
That's not quite what I was looking for, Pasquale. It's not quite the feel good feature I was looking for.
No, thanks for that.
Too honest, I like it. But I don't think it's quite as bad as that. Apologies for the Italian accent. Probably
I liked it, Mick. It was nice. That was good.
Looking
ahead to Sunday's game, it's the last time I'll probably, the last podcast we do before Tynecastle. How do you guys feel going into it? Should Celtic be confident, and do you think they'll get a result?
I think for Derek McInnes, I think if you ask him right now, he would bite a hand off for a draw with Hearts missing the three arguable best players in Shankland, Devlin, and Benigni. So yep. I do think that if Hearts were to get a draw, that would probably suit them. But I think you're probably edging into kind of must-win territory for Celtic. I think every game in the league is now a cup final.
Ryan, is it more must not lose? He'd be 9 points behind if you lose.
Yeah, I think you definitely can't lose it. Even if they did, though, I wouldn't totally count Celtic out of the title race. But if they can win it, then it really puts them in a good position for the second half of the campaign. And with Hearts missing, as I say, their three best players, then this is really an opportunity for Celtic to take advantage. We've lost twice to Hearts. Rangers have lost twice to Hearts, obviously, as well, which I don't think's ever happened before. I think Hearts have ever beaten both sides of Glasgow back to back in their history. So this is a massive opportunity for Celtic. They're obviously hoping to get the new striker in the door as well, and I do think they need to take full advantage. And the big thing is obviously hoping to avoid any injuries here in Bologna as well. So if they can go in with a full, with the squad that they have available at the minute, obviously they're missing long-term absentees, but if they go in with the squad that they've got at the minute on the back of a decent result tonight, then as I say, it's all about building momentum, then they might have a chance.
What do you think, Nick? Do you think Celtic can get a result at Tynecastle and will they?
I think they can. I mean, Hearts. You look at Hearts now, the injuries and suspensions. I mean, losing those key players there's no way of dressing up. They've been a massive part of the Hearts' success story this season. I mean, for all the kind of Jamestown analytic kind of talk and all that stuff, the reality is that Hearts have relied on a lot of their experienced campaigners, Devlin, Benigni, Shankland, Halkett. These kind of guys, I mean, a real spine of the team who have driven this run. But now we're going to see perhaps some of the guys who are part of that kind of that scouting that have come in, and we'll see how they respond to it. I mean, obviously you've got Karasidis and Braga who've been outstanding this year as well. They're the two main ones, I think. But the rest of the ones, I think, haven't quite made the same kind of impact. But they're now going to have to. I think some of these guys are going to have to come in and do the job. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Celtic are in a particularly weakened state right now, and you wouldn't be putting any money on them. But they've got an opportunity. They have got a big opportunity to go and take a big bite of that gap. I think a point apiece. I don't think anyone would be too upset with that one on both sides.
The guys there in Italy, Keith, I'm a great guy in the comments, says they're hiding their disco gears under those black coats, and I can confirm that was actually
100%.
That was the smoking area of a Bologna nightclub. So hope the guys are having a good time. That was
a matinee show over there. That's no surprise, knowing the way that Mick travels.
That was the Record Celtic podcast, which is out there if you want to listen to the full show.
Big Frank the Tank.
The other thing that they mentioned, Keith, that wasn't in that clip, is that Thomas Kirvancana, however you pronounce it, both guys agreed he needs to start at Tynecastle.
Well, I think, I don't know. I think that Martin O'Neill will need to assess him. Look, you can only assume that Martin O'Neill has signed off on this, that he's had a look for himself, looked at the videos. He'll have spoken a lot with Sean Maloney, who's very active in terms of the current kind of make weight recruitment strategy or camp that Celtic have got together. I actually wonder if it's getting down to a needs must. They had to get somebody in the door. Look, Martin O'Neill, he might be a big physical Martin O'Neill style striker, and Martin O'Neill might be all over this, and he might be, anxious to get him into that starting 11 as quickly as possible. Or, as we said earlier, he might need to take a good look at him in training. That's a guy that's not been playing a lot of football. It's a guy that's not been scoring a lot of goals. And I think you'll want to get his eyes on him at the training ground at Lennoxtown, and I think he'll make his assessment then as to whether or not he's ready to throw him right into the fire at Tynecastle, or if he makes a cameo from the bench. I'm not sure that you just say, right, he's a new guy, we start him. You need to make sure that you're happy that this new guy is, one, better than what you've got, two, up to game speed, ready for it, and able to fit into the team that way you imagine him. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he starts at the weekend. I also don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he'll be the only new arrival before the weekend as well. Because although Celtic's board have taken a long time, you can only imagine that they've got to get something else over the line at some point very, very soon. So there might be a couple of new additions for Martin O'Neill to clap eyes on at Lennoxtown before he steps on the team bus to Tynecastle.
Yeah, absolutely. Time is getting away from us, Keith. Obviously, Rangers have a game tomorrow night in the Europa League 2. It's obviously a dead rubber against Ludogarets, but every game is important for Danny Rowe's team.
Well, it's a dead rubber, apart from the fact that I think Rangers need to stay ahead of Olympiacos. If Olympiacos win the Greek title, and Rangers win the Scottish title. Now, you pays your money, you takes your choice on whether or not that's likely to happen in either country. But if it was to happen, then Rangers need to stay ahead of Olympiacos to get themselves a shot at a clear passageway into the Champions League without having to play any qualifiers. And in order to do that, they definitely, you would think, no, in fact, they don't. If Olympiacos were to fail to win either their last two matches, I think, then Rangers don't need to do anything. But I think if Olympiacos get beat against Ajax in their last game, then Rangers would need a victory at least, maybe 4 points from their final two games. So what I'm saying is, these things, the mathematics of it all is still a bit up in the air. But in order for Rangers to try and progress and look at the sort of investment that's coming in from America, from Andrew Kavanagh, I think they're seeing this as a potential real quick earner in terms of invest now to speculate now, to cash in later, and a free pass into the Champions League. Well, that's as good as it gets. So I think there is a bit of pressure on Rangers, even though it's a game that's not going to have any effect on this year's European campaign. It might just have a very big say in what happens next season. And I think they've got to be aware of that. Plus the fact, on top of all that, as Barry Ferguson said in his column, I think today, it's really important in terms of Rangers trying to say that they have turned a corner. That, yes, they were in a bit of disarray earlier in the season. I think it's embarrassing that they're sitting there with 1 point from 18. I think they should feel embarrassed about that. I think they've got to do whatever it is that they can do to turn that around. We've got a clip from Danny Rawls' presser earlier on today. He said he's going to go as full strength as he possibly can. Obviously, none of the three players that he's brought in this window can be registered for this game. But what that does allow him to do is go as full strength as he can, knowing that he's got at least two guys that can come in to the starting 11 against Dundee, possibly this weekend. So I don't expect Rangers to go light at this. I think they'll go heavy. And I can understand it for a number of reasons. They need to build and continue to build this momentum going into this sort of run-in between now and May. And do you know what? Although this campaign has been an absolute write-off for them, that's not Danny Rawls' fault. And if he can pick up, post 3 points on the board tomorrow night, I think that'd go a long way to just keeping Rangers moving along in the right direction. As everybody's saying, I don't think anybody's really been... I've said for a while that I don't think they're serious contenders for this title. I'm starting to change my opinion of that. The more I see of Danny Rawls influence on the team, the more that I see the players that are coming in. And from the Danny Rowe press conference, there's a really interesting question that's asked and a really interesting response about, is there a possible wow factor signing still to come between now and the window shutting? So I don't know if you've got the clip there, but I think it's worth a look.
Aye, let's hear what the Rangers manager had to say earlier on today.
Given that there is still that importance towards next year's Champions League qualification with these games, does it perhaps, change your thinking when it comes to the team lineup? Because, this might have been a game otherwise you would have looked to rest up with Dundee at the weekend, but given there is still importance to it.
We not rest so many players for tomorrow. We go with the strong group, and then that this point is very important for us. We have to be successful in the league, otherwise this is not a topic for us. But of course, we have now 60 games in the league, 2 games in Europe, and 4 hopefully cup games to go 8. If we get a lot of points at this, then we will have a pizza. And now we will see in the next 7 to 10 days. I think there will be some movements in out. I think so. But now we come a little bit to the crunch time in the transfer window, and then it's really about timing. Sometimes you have to be a little bit patient because we still know. When you look at the moment, our list for Europe is, I think, available players at the moment 15. It's a very small squad, and 3 days later we have still a game in the league. For this is also important to understand that you use all the players there on the list in these games. I think you can imagine I knock every day on the door of the recruitment and ask something new. But we made so far a good job. I think this is good to have the 3 players now here. And then what I said, it's about now timing. We have a clear idea, and now we have to wait. Maybe there's a domino on another club, and then we can take this opportunity for us. But this is now the next 7 to 10 days. It's you have to be ready when you have to be ready.
Would you be confident there's a chance of bringing in a real kind of wow signing between now and the end of January that really makes a statement for your intentions at going through the league?
Well, I'm not told so much because then maybe there's a disappointment. It's not the case, but maybe there's someone.
Keith, I would definitely. Oh, lost Keith there. There he is. I would definitely.
I don't know what's going on. We're getting some technical gremlins here.
I would definitely take that as he's got something up his sleeve. He's going to try and get some sort of wow sign.
Well, I have to tell you, the volume went in my headphones there. So having sort of set that whole thing up and said, "Oh, this is a really interesting question," I couldn't hear it, so I didn't know if anybody else did. But from earlier, I watched it, and the question was, "Is there a possible wow signing?" And the answer was sort of, "Well, if I say that there is, then people might get disappointed if it doesn't happen." That sounds to me as if they think they've got a possible, rabbit up their sleeve.
Yeah.
And I don't think he even entertained that question in the way that he did it. Although he was non-committal, he said enough to make you think that I think he's pretty confident that they do have something big still to come, which is surprising because I think that most people would have looked at Andreas Skov Olsen and thought, well, that'll be their sort of big capture of this transfer window. That's the sort of blue ribbon signing.
That's what I thought. Aye.
So that answer there leads me to believe they might have another one of a similar stature in the pipeline.
James in the comments sums it up, says, "Wow, the smirk at the end. He looks like the guy who knows where the Christmas presents are being kept." He did look very mischievous. I mean, who knows what will happen, but that definitely implied to me they're going to try something. So very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, it tells you that they're in the running for something just now. Whether or not they can pull it off is a matter of question. But I don't think he even says as much as he said there, even though he didn't say too much. I think he said enough for the Rangers fans to think they're trying to pull off something here. They've got a possible joker in the pack still to play.
Yeah. Right, well, look, as I say, Rangers game is tomorrow night, and our esteemed colleagues Andy Newport and Scott McDermott were at the press conference today. Shall we hear their thoughts on Danny Rose'
Yeah,
column?
and then let's get up the road. It's getting late, Dan.
Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to the Rangers Training Ground. My name's Andy Newport. I'm joined by my record sport colleague Scott McDermott. As ever, Scott, we've just been in to speak to Danny Rowe ahead of tomorrow night's game against Ludogarets. What did the Rangers manager have to say for himself in his press conference?
A lot of different aspects to Andy. I mean, I suppose the main one for me is just the kind of balancing act he's going to need to find in the next few days. Obviously, with a vital league game on Sunday against Dundee, kind of sandwiched between two European games that, you know, we've called them dead rubbers. Everybody's called them dead rubbers, but obviously it looks like, you know, if Rangers are going to win the Scottish Premiership title and have a chance to get straight into the Champions League next season, they need to pick up some points in these two games. So they've probably got a wee bit more importance than we've been giving them. But the message I thought for Danny Rowe today was pretty clear, that the priority for him is the league and trying to win this title. But it was almost like he was saying, look, we can't think about Champions League in Europe until we're the champions of Scotland, essentially. And I think that's a brilliant attitude to have. And I would actually go as far as saying a few Rangers managers before him have actually come unstuck because that hasn't been their attitude. I think at times Rangers have prioritised Europe rightly or wrongly, but it's probably cost them in the league. So in terms of his squad, it's going to be a balancing act. He says he's going to go strong against Ludogarets on Thursday night, which I can understand, but he has to have one eye on Dundee. Thankfully he's got some players back. With the injury, he's got 3 new players who can't play in Europe, could come into the thinking for Sunday, so it's just going to find out for the next few days.
I mean, he's not got much choice in terms of the squad he picks. You know, obviously he put a second string against Annan on Friday night, but just the guys that are either aren't fit or the guys that aren't in the European squad, it means he's going to have to go with the sort of, you know, his first choice, his top team, isn't it?
And that's why I think the new players, certainly Chukwuani and Skov Olsen, look as if they're going to have a big part to play on Sunday, and that would automatically freshen things up at the weekend. So as you say, he's limited in terms of his options in Europe. He has to go with the UEFA squad, but I would expect some changes at the weekend, certainly with those 2 new boys. I mean, I asked him if Skov Olsen was ready to start. He wouldn't commit totally, but it sounded to me like he's tempted. You know, he's obviously looked good in training for the last couple of days. The punters are dying to see him as well at Ibrox. I think it's a perfect game to throw him in.
And it's a huge game, as you say. You know, Rangers looking to carry on. Right now it's a 6-game winning streak. If they can get a result against Ludogarets, that takes you to 7, and obviously 8 against Dundee. But the real crucial point is that it's Hearts and Celtic playing off at Tynecastle, and give them a chance either to put a wee bit of daylight between themselves and Celtic, or perhaps chew into Hearts lead.
That's the thing again, but I liked Danny Rowe's attitude. It was a case of, look, it could be a really good day for us, but we've got a job to do first, and they can't underestimate Dundee, who are actually in decent form. Now, ordinarily you would look at that game and think, no, it should be an automatic 3 points, but it'll not be easy, especially with the pressure involved now, actually being in a title race. So no, it could be a big day for them at the weekend.
And we also spoke to Manny Fernandez today's press conference. I mean, it's going to be crucial as well. We've just learned that John Souttar's obviously out tomorrow night, and also Sunday's game against Dundee. Listeners this week have a groin injury. I think Danny Rowe was saying that it wasn't as bad as Firstfield, which will come as a relief. But I mean, in terms of his selection, you know, it's going to be Nasser Giga, you imagine, against Manny Fernandez?
You would think so. Giga did cover himself in glory against Annan on Friday night, but he's probably the only option he's got to get him beside Fernandez, and it's a shame, the Souttar issue, because we spoke to Manny Fernandez and he was talking about how much he's enjoyed playing with John Souttar, having that kind of older guy beside him at the heart of the defence, talking about communication and stuff, and it did seem like they were striking up a pretty good partnership. As you say, thankfully the Souttar injury doesn't look too serious. Danny Rowe expects him to be back on next Monday, so he'll be relieved about that, because I think everyone accepts now that's his first choice pairing at the back, Souttar and Fernandez.
Well, listen, you can keep up to date with everything that happens Ibrox tomorrow night at Record Sport Online and also in the paper too. We look forward to seeing you then.
And on Hotline Live too. Thanks very much.
I've got to say, and on a Hotline Live late night special.
Tomorrow night, absolutely, 10 p.m, a pyjamas special.
10 p.m. thereabouts, Dan.
Aye, thereabouts, of course.
Depending on injury time and all that sort of stuff.
Just very briefly, Keith, Ludogarets, they can still go through in the Europa League. They're on the same amount of points as Celtic, just above Celtic in goal difference. Do you think Rangers will get a result tomorrow night?
I've predicted for both games, I think if Celtic get a point in Italy, I think it would represent a terrific result on the road. I think that might be asking a bit much. I think Celtic might look to the final game at home to Utrecht thinking 3 points could be enough, probably should be enough. For Rangers, difficult one again. I've gone 2-1 for Bologna. I've gone 2-1 for Rangers because I think with a bit of momentum and knowing that their last game's away to Porto, you can almost write that one off already.
Aye, I guess we'll see. And as Keith says, we'll be here again at 10 p.m. tomorrow night to chew over all of the Europa League results. Until then, in the comments, Rebel says, nice show. Thank you very much, Rebel. We appreciate
Thank you, Rebel.
And thank you very much to all of the other comments as well. Keith, it's always a pleasure. Enjoy your dinner.
Yeah, see you tomorrow night. Jammy time.
Absolutely. Hope you can join us tomorrow. Thanks for watching.